All right, folks, like Boys to Men once sang, we've come to the end of the road. Schizophrenia is the last of the abnormal psychology disorders that we're going to be taking a look at. There are tons of other ones, even inside these categories that we've been using. There are lots and lots. I would encourage you, if you're interested in this, obviously as you go to college, you could seek out an abnormal psychology um, class. There are books and things out there that will deal with these things as well. The last one we've got is schizophrenia. Schizophrenia affects about 1% of the population every year. The interesting thing about schizophrenia is it can look very different with different people. And that's true of a lot of these disorders. If you have obsessive compulsive disorder and I have obsessive compulsive disorder, those don't necessarily look the same. We could have different rituals, different triggers, things like that. Um, with schizophrenia, um, what we see is the severity can be different. There can be people that are schizophrenic and can still live fairly quote unquote normal lives. There are also people who will be institutionalized because of the schizophrenic disorder that they have. People that are schizophrenic have schizophrenic episodes. A lot of times these are brought on by stress, and so you're not symptomatic all the time. You have periods of time where you're symptomatic, and those are called episodes. This is a brain scan of someone with schizophrenia. You can tell there's an awful lot of activity in that frontal lobe of the brain. There's also some activity back in the occipital lobe of the brain, and that'll be something we talk about here in just a second. There are three types of schizophrenia, catatonic schizophrenias. Schizophrenics, when they are having an episode, they really don't interact with the outside world. They usually will sit very rigid. They don't talk. They don't focus on people who are talking to them. There's a whole lot of activity that's going on in their brains, though, and so what we know is that there's a lot of stuff that's happening, but it's in an internal happening where that's going on, and so catatonic schizophrenics, there's not a lot of outside interaction. Paranoid schizophrenics are ones that you'll see a lot in things like movies. Great movie portraying schizophrenia by my buddy Ron Howard called A Beautiful Mind. Came out several years ago. Maybe you want to look at on a streaming service. If we were in class together, I would be showing you that one. Paranoid schizophrenics are people who feel like people are watching them, that they are being persecuted, um, that the government's out to get them. Those two examples I gave you in the actively learns that we did, those guys would both be paranoid schizophrenics. The undifferentiated type, kind of like that drawer you got in your house where you put everything that doesn't actually have a place. Of course, after pandemic 2020, maybe you've put everything in a place. You got bored enough that you were doing that. But for most of us, you got that one drawer, undifferentiated. People just don't fit into either of the other categories. There are some symptoms of schizophrenia. You don't have to have all of these to be considered schizophrenic, but usually a couple. Thought disorder, basically point A is not linking up to point B. Logical flow uh, isn't something that happens very easily for these folks. Um, Hallucinations. A lot of times these people will hear voices or they'll see things that aren't there. A lot of times these will take the form of angels or demons. The son of Sam, famous serial killer, if you remember personality disorders, looking at antisocial personality disorder. His defense in his trial and ultimately was successful, got him sent uh, to mental health treatment, was that he was schizophrenic. He believed there was a demon who was living in his next door neighbor's dog, who was telling him to go do these terrible things. Delusions of grandeur, basically thinking you're more important than what you are, is another one that'll fit in. Inappropriate emotional responses. These folks either have um, kind of the wrong emotion at the time. You laugh when you should cry, cry when you should laugh, or much more commonly, there's what's called a lack of effect. And lack of effect is just there's no emotional response when an episode is going on. And so if you've got a couple of those, you can be considered schizophrenic. Schizophrenia goes in the rule of thirds. One third of people will have one episode of schizophrenia. They'll never have another problem the rest of their lives. Problem is you don't know really if you fit into that one third. Usually between 17 and 25 is where you'll see your first schizophrenic episode. Very rare that it happens after that. Childhood schizophrenia is becoming a more common diagnosis. I got a very cool video from ABC News that will be up on our playlist. I encourage you to watch that, dealing with childhood schizophrenia. A third of people have severe symptoms, but they respond to treatment, things like antipsychotics, which are medications that can help with schizophrenia, therapies, that type of stuff. But a third of people, um, they're going to need some type of more permanent care, and so they'll be in and out of institutions for most of their lives. So, like I said, different types of severity that are there. Um, to diagnose somebody with schizophrenia, we saw the symptoms. A lot of times they will have um, movement quirks as well, something that you can see there. Word salad is the idea that they get their words mixed up. Remember, we got thought disorder. And so they reach for a word and they end up getting a different word or multiple words. Can be a way to do that. Clang association is speech that rhymes. That can be another way. Um, that you can diagnose these folks. Like I said, there are medications, antipsychotics, things like that will help out people with schizophrenia. One of the things they're trying more today are family therapies, bringing in people to um, bringing in the whole family to help them recognize, well, hey, this is what sets this patient off. This is ways we can reduce stress in the household. When something happens, this is what you need to do, or just even giving people a general understanding that, hey, this isn't something that people, the patient can help. This is what they're experiencing, and trying to get that support system really locked in for those folks. So that's a kind of a look at schizophrenia. I encourage you again to take a look at the videos that I'm going to post here on the playlist, and we will hopefully will help um, seeing some real people that are dealing with this one. And again, if you haven't seen A Beautiful Mind, it's a really good movie. There's another good one with Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts, a little older, called Conspiracy Theory, where Mel Gibson's playing a paranoid schizophrenic. Recommend both those if you're interested in the Hollywood portrayal of the um, of the disorder. A lot of times, speaking of Hollywood, people will get this mixed up with multiple personalities or DID that we saw in um, our dissociative category. Schizophrenics don't have multiple personalities. That's one that people get mixed up quite a bit. But like I said, check out that playlist, and you'll see some more accurate representations of the disorder.